I was just taking out the trash. That's all I was doing. I'm over at Linda's parents' house. She's been going over there to help them clean up. Linda's mom, I've shared before, is going through some difficulty. She's under hospice care long term. And I went over one day and we sort of did some cleaning up, and I took the trash from their house, threw it in the back of my truck, and drove down to the dumpster with Linda. Sounds good. Doing things the way I'm supposed to do. As I get to the dumpster, I do the normal thing. I take the trash out of the truck and I go to throw it in. And right about that time, I turn around and here comes a woman from their mobile home community. And she goes, "Are you new here?" Now, here's the thing. This is a community that is a 55 and older community, which implies that she thinks I live there, which implies that she thinks I'm old enough to live there, which sadly implies that I look old enough to live there. Thank you, Jan. Jan goes, "You really do," right? Thank you. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to forgive this woman for the damage she has done to me just by saying, "Are you new here?" I don't think she knew what she was doing. And what we're talking today about is exactly what we're just saying about. We're talking about forgiveness and the reality that there's some small things that sometimes you're like, you need to forgive those small things. But there's also some stuff that is just big, huge big. And what we're doing is we're starting out a series that's walking through the last words of Jesus from the cross. And so we're walking through sort of sequentially the way that it's believed that he spoke these words in sequence, especially when it comes to like the first ones and the last words. And first words and last words matter a lot when it comes to Scripture. And so what we're doing is we're reading today from Luke's Gospel, chapter 23, and these are his first words, literally from the cross. Two others also, who were criminals, were led away to be put to death with him. And when they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." And they cast lots to divide his clothing. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our Lord endures forever. When you think about the words from the cross, this is one of those moments where hopefully our heart is at this place of saying, we know the story up to this point. We even know this story, but the point that Luke's trying to get across, this is the place where we really want to lean in. You want to lean in and say, you know these are going to be some of the last words that he is going to speak. And you want to lean in to hear them. And you want to lean in to try and understand them. And probably from Jesus' perspective, you also want to lean in so that you can put them into practice. Because those first words, and like I said, the last words really matter. And if you think about it, 10 Commandments, the first commandment is really important. I am the Lord your God. I'm the one who brought you out of Egypt. You shall have no other gods before me. That's the first word. That's the first commandment, trying to emphasize that the thing that you need to put first is me. You need to put God first. And if you get that taken care of, a lot of this other stuff's going to take care of it, right? Just by putting this one in, it's going to matter a lot in terms of you fulfilling the other 9. If you thought about it from a New Testament perspective, and you think of Paul and his fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. First one was love, right? If you get that one right, what's going to happen with all these other ones? It'll unfold. And so when we get to this place where we're looking at these words from Jesus, he's really wanting us to get, this is the lens. This is the thing I really want you to hear at the beginning. Grounded in this love is forgiveness. And what we need to wrestle with here is that we're getting the opportunity, we're going to go just a little bit past that reading that we just did, to be able to look and literally picture Jesus on the cross looking out across all the people that are there. And we get to look through his eyes. Because as the passage goes on, 4 different segments get sort of pointed out. Segments of people or individuals that get lifted up for a reason. So here's how it continues. It doesn't just stop with him saying, forgive them for they know not what they do. And the people stood by, watching. And the leaders scoffed at him, saying, he saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one. The soldiers mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, if you are the King of Jews, save yourself. There's also an inscription over him saying, this is the King of the Jews. And last, one of the criminals who were hanged there kept deriding him and saying, are you not the Messiah? Save yourself, save us, save me. 4 different segments of groups. And when he's sitting there looking, he's looking at each one of them, people who are standing by, doing nothing as he's up there. The people that were there at Palm Sunday that had cheered his arrival, now silent, forgiven. Leaders, the very leaders, the religious leaders, the ones that really arranged for him to be able to be turned over to the Romans, forgiven. The Romans themselves, the soldiers representing them, the ones who drive the nails into his wrists and into his ankles. Forgive them. Criminals, the people that have done harm to others and therefore through that have done harm just as much as the soldiers putting the nails through. Forgiven. Each one of their stories is this whole idea of they do not know what they do. In other words, what he's doing is he's pointing out these 4 different groups of people because we can put ourselves somewhere in those groups. Everyone on this planet can identify with those people that stood by and said nothing. It makes me think of Ukraine right now, the antithesis of it almost. I was watching a news report. It showed a Russian tank coming into a town and an elderly man standing in front of the tank. And he wasn't just standing in front of it. He would get up in front of it and he was pushing on the front of it, pushing against a tank. The exact opposite of standing and doing nothing. He was standing up to do something. But these people, they stood by. And yet they're forgiven. So who's not forgiven sort of becomes the question for us moving forward. Now here's the thing. When you think about forgiveness, there are annoying people in the world. Can I get an amen? Right? Do not look at your neighbor. You're literally looking at each other. You just were up here singing for us. Kim and Lisa are like, your vocals were way off. No, your vocals were way off. Right? There's annoying people in the world, and we deal with them all the time. Did you know you can actually search for a list of annoying people on the internet? Because you can search for anything. So I did, right? This is fun search, right? When I get to do sermons, it's sort of cool because I get to search for some fun stuff. And to share with you the 10 types of annoying people that this one had. And when you're thinking like annoying, you're not thinking like a one-timer. Right? One-timers are at least double dippers. Maybe a triple scoop ice cream, right? They keep doing the same thing. That's what makes them annoying. So here's some of the list. Spoiled. The person that's been used to getting their way all the time, and then when it doesn't happen, they whine, and they complain, and they don't listen to you. 2, bully. Another person that I don't get my way, I'm going to force my way in order to get it. Number 3, the know-it-all. Anybody know them? All right? You know me, right? Yeah. So, right? So the know-it-all is the person that literally doesn't matter the topic, raising a kitten to launching a rocket. I know how to do that, all right? That's the know-it-all, which is in distinction from the next one, which is the braggart, right? The person that brags all the time. Because the braggart annoyingly actually knows something about the thing that they're talking about, but they want you to know that they know something about the thing that they're talking about, right? So that's the braggart. Racist, the critical, the negative person. Yeah. All right? The pretender or the hypocrite, the one that puts on a face and you think that there's this type of person, but they're actually something opposite. The sore loser, person that's just like, boo-hoo for me, I lost, and wants everybody to know. The drama king or the drama queen. Everything gets elevated emotionally. I added to this list myself, my own personal ones, Democrat and Republican, right? They're all labels. They are all labels. They're labels that we put on people. And sometimes what happens is we pull up, or at least other people, not us, pull up to a buffet of these things, okay? So I used to manage Shepherd's Restaurant, Clearwater Beach, right? So I was a general manager out there, and it was a buffet, not millions, but lots of items, okay? 2 sides, salad bar on one side, just vegetables and potatoes, and then there's prime rib and there's crab legs. What do you think people went for? No, they filled up on salad, right? No, of course they went for the crab legs. And what would they do? There was nothing else on the plate. They took extra helpings of crab legs. And sometimes that's what these people do, the annoying people. They just heap on more and more of the I'm a sore loser, or I'm a pretender, or I'm a braggart, whatever it is, and they keep heaping on. And some people pick multiple items from the buffet, and they'll combine them into one. And we call those people, the last category, toxic. You're literally getting to the point where you're toxic. People don't want to relate to you because you're doing so much harm to them. So here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if we don't find countless ways to label the bad in people rather than looking for the good in them. So when I preach a sermon, it's not like I prepped this yesterday. I've been thinking about what this sermon was going to be like for a little while, and getting ready for it, I thought in this past week, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at Linda, that's my wife, and I'm going to look at her this week, so the past week, and see the bad things that she does. This is how to build a relationship, all right? So actually, I'm just trying to drum up business. I'm a minister, so if you have marital difficulties, job security, right? So I literally went through, and we were doing this together, all right? So I talked to her about this as well. So we're looking like, what's the things in this week that we find annoying about each other? And she couldn't find anything on me. I don't know what. So I'm gonna focus on. I wrote down the things. Clearly, it was easy for me to find some things on her. She is irritable when tired. Right? So that's pretty normal, right? Yeah. You know she's irritable too, right? That's why you put your hand up, because you're like, Linda is irritable. Oh, it's you. Okay, all right. So irritable when tired. And the other thing I noticed this week was that her frustration with another person can easily become frustration with a wonderful person. And I don't know, somehow something translates from here to here, and suddenly I'm like, weren't we talking about somebody else? And I was trying to work with this, and suddenly I've said something that's upset her because she's escalated. She did get some from me. So for me, this has been a history for me, bringing church home, bringing work home, coming home late, missing a dinner. Are things that I do. Sometimes even when I'm home, she added in sort of the perspective that I'm distant. I become distant because I'm preoccupied. I'm thinking about things typically related to the church. And I can sort of be off in a zone, and she's trying to connect, and I'm like, I'm sort of zoned out. So people ask me sometimes, because I'm apparently old enough to live in a 55 and over community, and because we've now been married 36, almost 37 years this year, we're now old enough that sometimes you get the question of what's the secret? What's the secret to a long marriage? And there's some of you that have much more experience than I do, but we sign cards for you because you cross over that 50 mark, and like, that is so awesome to me to realize you've been together for 50 years. Sometimes it's 60, 68 years that we'll be signing a card for someone. What's the secret? And I think the secret is knowing the other person, and I mean knowing the other person, for all their beauty and all of their ugliness all in one, and loving them anyway. So when you go through and you start looking at and you're identifying and seeing, in my case, in Linda, these negative things, we didn't stop there. We decided, let's look for the things that are good. Let's look for the things for good. Here's what I wrote down. I watched her cook for her mom and dad. So she's not just trying to do some meals for us at times, and I cook too, but she's trying to literally prep meals for her mom and dad because her mom can't get hardly off the couch to go to the bathroom, much less to stand up and to be able to cook. She cooks for our dog. She gets a crock pot, and she'll get some chicken breast, and she throws it in the crock pot with some carrots and some other, peas and whatnot. And I can smell it cooking all day. It smells wonderful. And then I realize it's not for me. It's for the dog. Told you she's messed up. She visits her parents 4 to 5 times per week. Tries to clean up their house. Years ago, when we were young, like in our 20s, I remember turning over the checkbook to her. I was like, if something ever happens to me, she had never done a checkbook, and this was years into her marriage, younger years, but still years in. And I was like, I want to make sure that you know how to balance a checkbook. She still handles that years later. Small little thing. She calls me up. She's heading home, and she's going to stop at the grocery store. And I get a phone call of, anything you need? Little small thing. And the last thing, she puts toothpaste on my toothbrush every night. I have not asked her to put toothpaste on my toothbrush every night, but every night there is toothpaste on my toothbrush. Because what happens is I take my dog outside. I take the dog for a walk. She goes upstairs. She's getting ready for bed. And as she's getting her toothbrush ready, she pulls mine out too. And she puts toothpaste on my toothbrush. I wonder if Jesus, looking from the cross, as he looks out at all those groups of people, as he looks out at you and me, if what makes forgiveness, even from that place, possible, is because he sees the good little things in you. And they so outnumber the annoying things. If we got that in terms of our relationships with each other, if we maybe sort of did a little inventory that looked at and said, honestly, here's the things that are annoying. Linda, when I said, what was one of mine there? The frustration with the transferring from one person over to me. She didn't go, I do not. She said, I do that. That became a powerful conversation, not a negative conversation. What if Jesus, as he's looking at the people that are standing by doing nothing, looks at them with a different eye? What if as he's looking at them doing nothing, he realized that they're paralyzed into inaction? They're just afraid. They're afraid for their own lives if they speak up. Forgiven. What if those Jewish leaders that are looking out to the place where they actually turn him over to the Roman authorities, through his eyes is they're seeking to do their best to be as faithful as they can, and they do not understand. forgiven? What if the Roman soldiers, he looks at them and what he sees is men, young men, wanting community. They just want community. And they're a community of men, and there's peer pressure when you're in a community like that. And so they're just doing the thing that the other people are doing, but from his perspective, they just want community, and they don't know what they're doing. What if the last criminal, the one who derides him, that word in Greek literally is blaspheme, still forgiven? What if, when he cries out, "Save us," Jesus is not thinking, "Why did you wait so long?" You are forgiven. And guys, if he's forgiving those four groups of people, he's forgiven you. He's forgiven you for whatever it is you've done, whatever it is you're doing. He wants the best for you. He wants you to take the next step. But the whole reason he went here was to try and get to the place where you'd be able to recognize it, to realize you need forgiveness.